program moving, and there's people I have to recognize, as I've been reminded. A lot of people have taken issue with what I said in the Grand Rapids Times. Wrote an article in the Grand Rapids Times, and it's in regards to what I said about parenting. So it builds on what you said, Ms. Dixon. And in there I talked about a generation of parents who were born in the 70s, late 60s, and they were siphoning basically into a black hole of cocaine, fast living in the penal system. That's how I put it. That's bleak, but that's how I put it. You talk about parenting. It seems that we've lost a lot of parents in the community, be it the Grand Rapids community or Harlem or Atlanta, all across the nation. We've lost a generation of parents. Anybody who's out in the community knows this. This is no secret. What is the community response? Because everybody goes back to that parable about the village, and it seems like it's going to take a village response, because going and asking a whole bunch of individual parents who have no good frame of reference for parenting doesn't seem like that's going to bring about any solutions, or maybe I'm wrong. Somebody please respond, and then we're going to open up question and answer.
John, I surely will jump on that one. And I'm going to tie it back into that other question, because in terms of how to institutionalize passing the baton. And, I learned that if a baton is not passed to you, that you have to take the baton. Right. And I believe that that is part of the institutional culture of democratic progress, okay? And if we focus on, I believe, our own individual responsibility to try to make the system, if you will, right, be it a parent or any of you as citizens who aren't parents, that they will get right. I believe that the civic engagement process is our responsibility for wanting to be free in America. And people don't understand the process enough, and don't understand that America is still a great experiment, right? And so one example in terms of this great generational divide that, again, for me, kind of ties it all in and talks about passing the baton, is that when I first got out of college, I was sitting on a panel like this, similar to this, and a couple of the elders in the community invited me to sit on the panel. I was probably about your age at that time, John. Not that I'm too much older now, but I was about your age at that time. And so we're sitting there, and one of the brothers on the panel made a knock. He made a knock at me to say, because like Jerry, I spent a lot of time talking to young people. When I'm out of college, I will stop my car and get out. I don't care if they're standing on the corner, I'll get out and talk to them, right? One older brother on the panel says to the general audience, he says, leadership is not standing on the corner. I understand inside-outside games, so I understand he was talking about, I'm an insider. But he didn't have to knock me. Right. He said, and I knew he was talking to me because I'm the only one up there who gets out the car and talks to other people. So I didn't know how to still maintain that respect for that brother without going at him, because I'm still trying to be respectful of my elder. But I looked out in the audience and I asked, how many people have I talked to personally about being involved in your community and getting involved in politics? Do you know 90% of the people in the audience raise their hands? So again, to that point, we as individuals, parents, no matter what you're doing, go to these meetings, because if you're not there, something's going to happen that you wish you would have been there. If you are partying on Friday night, get up on Saturday morning and make a meeting. If you're partying before the school board meeting, make it to the school board meeting. Right. Again, see, that's no excuse. Your lifestyle is no excuse for not being engaged in politics. Right. You understand? And if somebody's telling you that you don't have a right to participate in the political process because you may do something that is unsavory, that person is not for you. That person is not for this community. Right. So get involved and take the baton.
We'll take one more quick response from Ms. Smith on that question. We'll open up question and answer.
I am a parent of 1,000+ children. The young people in my neighborhood mean everything to me. We take it for granted sometimes that becoming a parent or becoming an adult comes with a set of lessons. It does not. There are a lot of young people, young ladies, young fathers, and parents who do not know how to raise their children. they've never been taught. They don't know how to cook. They don't know how to shop. Someone has to teach them. We have to teach them. We have to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Whether it's in the arena of the Grand Rapids Public Schools or if it's in the streets. Right. We must stand to the challenge. Right. Because if we do not, we own some of that responsibility and some of that wrongdoing that's going on in the streets. Amen. We are responsible. Right. We want to turn our head and run to the suburbs, but you can run, but you know what, sooner or later, it catches you.
During Q&A, Reverend Jerry Bishop will be responding to that as well. But no, we want to leave the people. We want to leave the people with that statement right there by Ms. Smith. I think we established that a main priority is the Grand Rapids Public Schools. That's the main priority that the Talented 10th has deemed that we need to address as a community. So Dr. Taylor should have no problem finding volunteers and employing the good citizens of Grand Rapids. We want to now open up the question and answer session for anybody who may have a query for the up-and-coming leadership panel, in which you can address some other things as well, but we want to get this thing moving. So any questions, we want them to come forward now.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sarah Hill. I am not originally from Grand Rapids. I've lived here for about 2 years. I am a young black professional in the Grand Rapids area, and I come from the Bay Area in California, which is very diverse, extremely diverse. And I have a couple of issues. Me being a newcomer to Grand Rapids, recently newcomer, there are a lot of things I have a different perspective on because of where I come from. And I guess we talked, when the panel started, we were going to talk about solutions. And I was in California in 1997 when Proposition 209 passed. And I can tell you that not just higher education, but everything in California changed based on Proposition 209. The Michigan Civil Rights Initiative is patterned after Proposition 209. And while it is a direct attack on affirmative action is benefiting mostly white women right now, but that does not mean that it's still not needed in our communities. And there's been a lot of spiritual talk, and I am a Christian and I appreciate that, but there hasn't been a lot of talk about solution. Right. And I know that we've done in California at University of California, Berkeley, at San Francisco State University, San Jose State University, we've done a number of outreach programs in order to kind of buffer the effect of Proposition 209 when it passed, based on the language and the way it was written. Sure. But what are we doing now? What I found was a lot of people didn't know what MCRI was. Right. Even I didn't know until recently. I said, oh, that's Proposition 209, okay. But what are we going to do besides doing voting drives? How are we educating the young people who are 18, who are ready to vote? And there are young black professionals, and just to defend those young black professionals that don't make it out to everything, until you're a college graduate struggling to pay your student loans, don't pass judgment, please. Because seriously, I do what I can, but I'm not the world, I'm not the human savior, and I'll make it to what I can make it to.
Anybody like to respond to that? We talked about some solutions, and we especially talked about solutions with younger people in the community, as in children. The We See program. We talked about Life Quest, intervening with the young men in the community. Solutions to MCRI, which is something I'm definitely going to be asking our long-standing leadership about. How are we going to organize and strategically address MCRI? We can start over here at the far right.
When we begin to talk about solutions and we begin to look involved in changing our neighborhoods, changing the political climate and the political acumen of those that live in the neighborhood, though it amazes me that those that advocate for a lot of upwardly mobile issues never seem to live in the neighborhood. They never seem to spend time cultivating relationships so they can educate indigenous people. Those that seem to have the understanding only live among those that have